Thank you for joining me on Nuggets of Wisdom. I am Charles Musakanda, and I appreciate you taking the time to grow and mature as we edify one another. On this nugget, I would like to talk on the subject of black on black, black experience, black interaction, black relations, how black people are growing and advancing in life, and the issues that we have that impede or slow down our growth, be it socially, economically, politically, even spiritually. And these are things that it's a broad, very big subject and discussion to be had, but I'd like to compress a few points in a nugget. And I know there's some of you church folk out there who think these subjects, you can't really be too worried about these things. These are not the times to be dealing with political, social matters. You have to focus on the spiritual aspect. Jesus is coming soon. Folks, the reality is we're still in this world, and we have to address certain things. And if we don't address some of these things, the very Jesus that we await to be coming again will come, and you might not be a part of the convoy that makes it to glory. So there's some things that we need to address. And I don't speak as if I am one who's holier than thou. I don't speak as if I am better than anybody. Oh, no. One thing I do know is that I'm surely far from being better than anyone, but I am better off with God, and better off with Christ, better off with wisdom and understanding. And would like to just share a few things, a few points on black experience, black growth, black maturity, black development. And I typically don't like to touch on a specific group of people because these nuggets are meant for the human race. But though I am talking about black on black, a term that some people are not comfortable with, some people don't like, including those in the black community, and some people understand the coining of that term black on black, I still believe that the principles of the things I am going to outline apply to the human race. So let them that have an ear and have the understanding hear what wisdom has to say. And this is how I'll begin. Black people are the most profiled against, most segregated against, most marginalized people across the globe. Be it in North America, South America, Asia, Europe, Australia, even in Africa itself. Black people are the most marginalized, segregated, and profiled people. And this is done by other, ethnic groups, and of course by systems that are put in place. And we know all about systemic racism, particularly in the West. And I'm talking United States of America and in Europe and stuff like that, which I'll come back to momentarily. But the saddest thing is that those very same things are done more by black people, more so by black people on black people, generally speaking. Not all the time. It's not 100%, but generally speaking. And even though it's a few of the times, you ought to remember that it takes 1 million or more people to build a nation's reputation. But all it takes is that one stupid fool to undo everything. So though there might be the few bad apples, as we would like to call it, those few bad apples make it very difficult for the greater majority of the black people group to advance in life. And it's those few bad apple issues that I would like to touch on and remind each other to rethink on how we relate and recalibrate, that we can rejuvenate our relationships. Black people, as I mentioned earlier, are the most marginalized. We know that in North America, like I mentioned, particularly in the United States, we've heard of multiple times police brutality and how black people have been shot and killed by the police. Sad as it may be, the truth is more black people die at the hands of other black people than they do at the hands of the police. Black people die at the hands of black people more than they do from systemic racism. And that's a sad reality. At one point, there were deaths in Chicago, violence in Chicago, black on black, gang-related and other issues that caused black on black violence in Chicago, so much so that there were more deaths in Chicago than there were in the Afghan War during some of the Afghan War years. There were more people dying in Chicago by black people, on black people, than there were deaths in the Afghan War. That's a sad reality. That's a sad fact. How then can we expect the system, as we call it, to respect us if we don't respect our own lives? We fight for civil rights. We fought for civil rights. We know the pioneers and the champions of civil rights movements. And we still have some of them to this day, from the Martin Luther Kings, to the Al Sharptons, to the Reverend, Jesse, to many others, Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, you name it, the champions, the Pan-Africanists, some of them, that fight for the rights of black people to be recognized as human beings and to be treated equally. When yet we do ourselves civil injustice upon our own selves, upon each other. How can we expect the system out there to respect us when we can't respect ourselves in here as a group of people? Secondly, in terms of economics and finance and growth and development, I myself have had bad experience with 3 black contractors on 3 of my houses. Each house had a different contractor work on it. And with all 3 black contractors, 2 of whom I called brothers, and those 2 worshiped with, and yet had experiences that are undescribable, disappointingly undescribable. And the other brother was a referral through other black people, and yet again, very disappointing. Money gone, service not delivered. And many a times that those experiences happen within the black community, where black people don't respect other black people and render mediocre, substandard service. And I can bet you any top dollar that they wouldn't do the same had they been working for a Chinese family, working for a Caucasian family, working for any other ethnic group. But when it comes to your own people, per se, you put substandard quality, no effort. As a matter of fact, disrespectful effort. And then those same black people don't support our businesses because of the substandard service we're rendering, And as business people, we turn around and say black people don't support black business. Well, that's because black business, when supported, takes advantage of black people. Becomes a vicious cycle. How can we expect the business world out there to trust us with credit and give us a business platform and have us at the game of monopoly and trust us with financial resources when we cannot respect each other with those very same resources? How? Just how? In the black community, $1 will circulate a maximum of 6 hands before it leaves the black community, if it even gets there. Oftentimes, the dollar doesn't go beyond 2 hands, 3 hands, and it's out of the black community into other communities. But if you were to consider the Jewish community, that same dollar exchanges 45 hands, 50 hands before it leaves their community. The same can be said of Chinese people and Indian people. The same can be said about Arabs. But when it comes to black people, be it in North America, in Europe, in Australia, wherever we are, in Asia, even in Africa itself, people in Africa support Chinese businesses more than they do their own local business. That's because when black people support black business does not deliver as it should. And then people shun from it and go support other people, leaving black businesses to starve. So we're eating at ourselves, eating each other, cannibalizing at each other, destroying ourselves. That's the second point. The first point, like I mentioned, is violence on each other. The second point is disrespecting each other and the lack of business acumen within our community. And the dollar is not rotating or exchanging hands within our community. So we're not economically powerful. We don't have influence at the table. We don't have a say at the table. The politicians don't think of us as big business people. So whatever we have to say, whatever cries we have on political platforms, almost fall on deaf ears because we have no influence, simply because of our disrespect for one another. So that was the second point. The third point, consider how we talk about each other, how we put each other down. You don't have to go too far, just listen to the music we play in our radios that play in mainstream media. Calling each other names, calling each other the N-word. Not the Negro, you know the other word for Negro. That word that the oppressor called us by. And we, stupid enough, proudly take that name and say, we own it. How can you own a name that has been put on you by the oppressor and start calling each other that oppressive name? Degrading ourselves, degrading our women, calling them the B word, and saying that's just our culture. That's just our language. It's just for fun. Calling each other a name that was at one time oppressive, and we oppress our own selves with. How can we expect the people out there, other groups, to respect this group of people when this very group of people cannot respect itself? What do you think? You think the Chinese kids, the white kids, the Arab kids, and all those kids that are singing those lyrics in private on radio, you think they keep quiet when that N word comes up in your lyrics? You think they bleep their radios? You think they pause and they skip that part? They sing and they call out that name with pride and make fun of it behind your back. Yea, they might not say to your face, but they sure do say that word and call you that word in their mind, in their lives, and behind closed doors, and laugh at us because we thought it was cool to take ownership of an oppressive name and call it upon ourselves. Black people, wake up. How? How do we expect to rise? We're behind on this monopoly game, way far behind. And we're playing games whilst at the game. You look at our levels of excellence. We've all witnessed just a few weeks ago at the Oscars, black on black violence. Will Smith on Chris Rock. At the epitome of excellence in the arts, that a black man had to do that to another black man, had to put another black man down. And yea, even Chris Rock himself having had to put a black queen down and make fun of a black queen. Of all other people in the audience, he had to go for the queen, for the black queen, causing another black king to erupt in anger and come down on him, a black man, a black king himself. The outside world is looking and laughing and say, even at the height of excellence, they cannot contain themselves. At the height of excellence, they lack temperance. Yea, just 2-3 days ago, Dave Chappelle was jumped by another black man. Again, at the epitome of excellence. And you'd think the previous experience would teach somebody something, but no, a black man jumping on a black man with the intent to do harm or even to kill. He had a knife on his hand. And when Chris Rock came on stage, Chris Rock said to Dave Chappelle jokingly, "Was that Will Smith?" Making fun of another black man instead of forgiving, moving on, and having a conversation to say, brothers, how can we grow? How can we get better? How can we develop one another? Now, I'm not laying any blame or speaking as if I am holier than thou or that I am righteous or better. I am not better than anybody. But I surely am better off with him that gives me the wisdom and the understanding. And that is God himself, Jehovah, through Christ, our Redeemer and our Savior. I'm not better than, I'm just better off with God. Now, black people, I would like for you to take note of Galatians chapter 5, verse 14 and verse 15. And verse 14 reads, "For all the law is embedded in this one word, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." And verse 15 reads, "But if you should bite one another and devour one another, be careful that you don't consume one another." If you will continue to bite one another and consume each other, be careful. And devour one another. Bite and devour one another. Be careful that you are not consumed. You're not depleted. You're not exterminated of each other. And if we're not careful, we will consume one another. Thank you for joining me on Nuggets of Wisdom. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Please comment, add, ask questions, like, share, please share. These nuggets will help somebody. We'll save a life somewhere. We'll save a relationship somewhere. We'll better somebody's life somewhere. So please share and subscribe. Please subscribe so that we can grow together, mature together as we edify one another. I am Charles Musakanda, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you again for joining me on Nuggets of Wisdom.